stop share. Boom. There we go.
Oh, that's better.
Yay.
Okay.
All right. And so let's do gallery view, I think. With that, yeah. Everyone looking good there. Okay, perfect. Hi, Mark.
Perfect.
Are you
I'm
good
here
with your video?
someplace.
Yeah. Maybe I didn't make you a co-host yet. Hold on, let me.
That's okay.
Oh no, you're good. All right. Well, yes, Danielle, do you want to go give the overview of the masterclass real quick?
Sure. So, hi everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. So, we're going to have 3 people this morning. We don't have a lot of time, so we're going to try to just get started as quickly as we can. We have some of our excerpt competition winners here this morning. So, we have Armando Lavariega. Thank you for being here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Armando is the winner of the college and professional level low excerpt competition. And we also have Hayden Joyce, who was the winner of the middle and high school division high excerpt competition. And Logan Brick, who's one of our co-winners of the college and professional level high excerpt competition. So everyone's going to get about 15 minutes. And we may have some interpretation for Armando. We have Elizabeth Segura here who's going to help us out. And so that's what we're going to do. I think everyone's playing live as far as I know. If not, please let us know as soon as possible. But I believe everyone's going to be playing live today. So again, John has put this into the chat, but please have your original sound turned on in Zoom. It's very important for the sound quality. So that's it. Let's get started. We'll start with Armando. Welcome.
Thank you. I will play Beethoven 9, solo horn, 4 horn.
Great.
Fantastic.
Good job.
Thanks.
We just need to address the sound a little bit. Have you got the original sound turned on? Can you just double check that? It was a little. The
Checa
quality.
tu sonido, a ver si es original prendido.
Original.
Prendido, sí, por favor. Ajá.
Okay. Supongo. Este es el único que tengo, no tengo.
It's the only one he has. He's playing with you right now.
Oh, it's okay. We can work with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Firstly, congratulations on winning the competition. Your submission was great. We really enjoyed listening to it.
Felicidades, Armando. Ellos disfrutaron mucho tu presentación.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.
So I'll cover a few things, and maybe since this is Danielle's specialty, she can also jump in. The first thing I was going to say, at the opening, it's a little hard to tell with the sound quality, but it seems like you're losing tempo with the way you're articulating the notes. So you're kind of delaying the start of the notes and then consequently losing tempo from the start. So try and keep direction the whole way through.
Ok, mantiene tu dirección todo el tiempo porque parece que estás perdiendo un poquito de tiempo en la emisión del sonido.
Okay, in the long notes or in general?
In the long notes.
Yeah, in the beginning. If you think of the eighth notes the whole way through, so I practice this playing at eighth notes, like da 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 da, or whatever the pitch is, the whole way through. And if you think about that while you're playing it, that will help keep the tempo moving. So.
Ella piensa en las corcheas todo el tiempo, Armando. Mientras está estudiando y luego cuando está tocando lo piensa así.
Okay.
Do you want to try one more time, just that very opening? So it should be, try and also get it as connected as possible. It's hard to tell if it's a sound quality, but I think there's gaps between the quarters. So try and sustain the quarters as much as possible, but keep the tempo moving.
Mueve el tiempo, pero sostenuto de las negras, todo conectado.
Okay. Y comienzo, ¿verdad? Nuevamente, toco.
Sí, sí.
Just stop there. That's good. Just do that opening section.
Okay.
Play it one time and actually play the eighths. So da 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 da.
Okay.
Toca todas las corcheas, sí.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. Now play it as written, but hear that in your head as you're playing.
Como está escrito, pero oyes en tu cabeza. Perdón.
Yeah, great. Big improvement. And then from the next section, the one thing I was going to say before I give Danielle a chance to jump in, but so that opening is very much a supportive role of what the rest of the winds are playing. And then as soon as you jump to that F to D flat slur, you're the soloist. So completely change the character. It's very supportive and then soloistic. Did you catch that?
Primera parte está apoyando y luego cuando llegas al fa, re bemol, cambia tu calidad de sonido para que estás en la solística. ¿Sí?
Ok.
Como
Entonces,
solista.
¿vuelvo a tocar? O ahí donde?
Okay. Should he play it again?
Yeah, play from the top. Great. Danielle, do you have anything you want to add?
Sure. I would say, as a general comment, also thinking about the video that you submitted as well. And again, it could have something to do with the sound and the recording, things like that. But it would be nice to have more contrast. Like there's a lot of, it's very present, like the sound is full and present. And I think it would be nice if some of it was a little softer. Like in the opening still, I think it could be a little more subdued. I don't know if you need any of that translated.
Sí, Armando, ella piensa que el sonido está muy relleno, le gustó mucho en tu otro video también, pero necesita un poquito más piano, un poquito distinto en el principio del Beethoven, y pues que cambia carácter un poquito menos, ¿ok? Más cambios.
¿Quiere que lo toque nuevamente con esas indicaciones?
Would you like him to play it again with those indications?
I think not, just because we can't hear it as well now, but I think also just in the character of how it's being played, it can be more singing, more kind of maybe longer phrases. And Jenna did say more connected, and I think that goes throughout, especially when you make a big skip, like ba even if you're tonguing ba dee, you don't want ba dee, but ba dee do dee do. So very connected throughout. And so that connection, the singing, and then more of the softer end of the dynamics will just make it that much more beautiful. And I think the singing will help the tempo to move, because it still wants to slow as you go down to the really low F. It kind of slows. So keep singing all the way through that part.
Okay.
Algo, Armando, ¿qué quieres que pregunte tú lo que me dijiste?
Sí, solamente eso, que cómo mejorar esa parte que a veces siento un poco de inconsistencia.
Okay, he feels there's a little bit of inconsistency when in his quality of sound, how to work on that, to have it more solid the whole time when he's changing.
Across registers or dynamics or?
Across register.
En registro.
Sí, across registers.
I don't know how to answer that.
For me, I like to think, and you may have to translate this, but I like to think when we're getting into the pedal register, I like to think about beverages like hot chocolate. So when you're up in the upper register, you know, it's a beautiful waterfall. And then down low, it becomes like a river of hot chocolate. So I think of thickness, viscosity, I know it's maybe a complicated one, but temperature, that the air gets warmer and stays just as powerful, but it's warmer and thicker. So as you go down, I think of a river of hot chocolate.
Yeah, thanks.
I think of, it's kind of similar actually. I tell students to think of like when you eat hot food and your mouth, like you kind of drop your tongue and your mouth gets really open. If you have hot food, I try and think about that feeling inside my oral cavity for playing low. So really warm air and really open oral cavity.
Yeah, I was taught to think the word toe when I'm playing those, which does the same thing as what you all are saying. So it's just sort of a different way to, we're all trying to say the same thing, just differently.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And like the technical thing that we're talking about is just your mouth shape, like the shape of your oral cavity inside, and like your tongue placement. You know, for high it's like e, but then for the low, like the f, the b, ba, ba. Your tongue's like really low in your mouth, and just and everything's really open. You know, just as you go lower, it gets more open, but as you go higher, it, you know, everything kind of comes up a little bit. Something to practice with.
Yeah.
Can I share one other little thing that I always share with people that play this, which was taught to me by Howard Wall, who's fourth horn in the New York Philharmonic, was that he plays And then the next note on the F horn. Just as a way to help that slur. Armando sounded fantastic on it, but I just share that for everybody out there, that don't be afraid to use the F horn to help those slurs.
Okay. Pues sí, me parece.
Ya le escribí mucho todo eso, ya te digo después, pero más bien se trata de abrir tu boca por como caliente, chocolate caliente bajando y todo eso. Y también usa el corno de fa para el fa sostenido arriba, ya que se cambia el fa. Ajá. Okay. Okay.
Sounded great. We might have to move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think we've got to move on, but thank you so much. You sound great.
And thank you, Elizabeth. We really appreciate your help.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
Armando.
Gracias.
Gracias, thank you.
Well done.
And Elizabeth, thanks for making this great mask.
Ah! So yes, I did make it for you. I did.
Nice.
It's okay.
Wonderful. Well, next we're going to welcome Hayden Joyce. So you can go ahead and come off. Oh, hi. Good morning. Welcome, Hayden.
Hi.
And do you want to tell us how old you are and where you are located?
I'm 14 years old, and I live in Middlebury, Indiana. It's a few hours out of Indianapolis. It's northern Indiana, but currently I'm in Joliet, Illinois, actually,
Great.
today.
Wonderful. And what would you like to play for our high horns today?
I'd like to start with the Wagner short call.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Way to go. Well, you've accomplished the most important thing, which is, well, maybe it's not the most important, but a very important thing, which is getting all the notes. And a lot of times we're just happy when we do that, right? But on this one, given that you have the notes, it sounds like you got a great sound. Sometimes I like to think about, sort of challenge myself to play a piece as if I was making it up right on the moment. So yours sounds, I could write it down exactly what you have, and it's very exact, but something a little freer. So don't worry about hitting the notes. We already know you can. Play it again like you're making it up right now at this moment, and we've never heard it before.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure 100% of us agree we like number 2 better than your first time, because that was exciting to listen to. And the only thing I would say is just to think about how you sustain some of the last notes of the phrases. That sometimes we can be afraid to sustain and feel like we have to make this like beautiful tapered cutoff, and that's not always the case. So like when you land on that first D at the end of the first phrase, maybe consider sustaining it more so that the silence that you have in there actually has tension in it, as opposed to ya-da-da-dum, and now it's the moment is sort of lost. So yum bum bum. Okay, one more time. Yeah, that's better. Hayden, try. What do you think about like? So a little bit less time in there. I'm not sure how my levels are. I might have been blasting everyone. Yeah, and you know you missed that G a couple times, so don't be afraid. Yum dun dun da 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 ya da da, so that you know exactly when it's supposed to happen. If you keep that sense of pulse in your head, everything will line up. But if you sort of lose it, then you know as horn players we're trying to coordinate a whole bunch of different things. So I use the sense of time to lock everything in. Mark, do you want to jump in here?
I think it sounds great. You could make it a little more dramatic, like Jeff was saying, the long notes at the end of the phrases. Okay. But in general, I think it's really great. Your rhythm's really good. The pitch for the most part is really good. Just make sure you have really good intervals between the long D's and G's. Okay. And just a little more dramatic, and I think it's fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add something kind of similar here, Hayden. The final notes of the phrases, you can actually treat them as fermati, because you're backstage, you're off the stage, and the tenor on stage is just trying to, you know, play along with you and try to make a really dramatic moment out of this. So this is like a moment of theater. So you have to like embody that as well. And so you can really like put a fermata on those last like really like kind of go over the top. And you know, if it's too much, like a committee can ask you to like taper it back, but you know, then pause there, take a huge breath so that you have plenty of air to get to the next phrase and hold it that lunga, that note just as long. And then, of course, when you're playing this for a panel or for a college audition, you want to like count that rest. You want to imagine the bass clarinet part, you know, and then start. So like wait plenty of time before you begin the last call. Huge breath. And another tip that helps me kind of like get up, like perpetuate like my air forward, is to accent the downbeat. But it's especially the first note of the phrase, like that. Sorry, you know, I'm blasting that. That was a little hot. That was a little hot on the mic, but yeah, think about that. Maybe let's just hear the last call with that accent on the first note of the. Awesome. One more time. Get another shot at that. Mm-hmm. Another thing to help, it's like huge breath, and then make it all one airstream. You know, it's just like interrupted by the tongue. It's not like huff. No note is like huffed into place. It's all just riding on one airstream. Any other comments, Jeff, Mark, or Jenna, Danielle?
I'm ready to hear something else, because that's fabulous. Yeah, do you have something else you could play for us?
Yeah, the Brahms 1 excerpt from the first movement, or the fourth movement.
Hayden, again, that's really nice, really beautiful. I wish we could hear your tone in person because I have a suspicion that it's really gorgeous. Zoom has a way of sort of compressing everything, but I'll say your sense of time was right on. I mean, I was sort of counting along, and I'm curious to know what do you think about to help keep that sense of time, because it's something we could all learn.
The trombone chorale. Later, I usually like to think of it kind of
just to sort of get you in the mood and the spirit. Yeah, that's a wonderful way to do it, to sort of get your body and your mind in that sort of sound. I guess we're picking on how you sustain the notes at the ends of phrases, because that's what I was going to say in here too. Now, the way this is written, most people have probably seen it. Every 2 bars, you have a quarter rest, I think, at the end of that. But of course, it's covered by the second horn in the orchestra. All that said, what I try to do when I play it is actually make an 8-bar phrase. So it just has to do with how you sustain those dotted half notes every other bar. So and I actually subdivide in rhythm patterns. I'm just throwing this out there as an aside. You don't have to do it, but I'm thinking, and then I'm going to sustain. So that we're carrying through. So that's a lot to think about, but see if you can make that happen a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, you're on the right track. I would say when I get done playing this, I'm like gasping for air, because I've sort of put everything I can into, sort of that thickness of sound and sustaining those things. So it's not about the sheer volume. It's not like, I don't necessarily want you to play louder. It's the shape of the note, and especially at the end of it, that it doesn't, the last like half second of the note doesn't taper off so much. So I'm going to try playing and try not to blast you all like I did last time. Okay, one more time. Yeah, that's really nice. So, with these excerpts, it's always great to record yourself so that you can sort of like give yourself a lesson, right? Because of course we're all our own best teachers. I mean, you see your teacher for 1 hour a week or something like that. So, this is for all of us. If you record something like this and sort of perform it, for your device, whatever you have there, you can pick up on some of these things. And so I would just say, when you do that, pay attention to the length of the rest, because for me, the rest is still too long. I want you to sustain right to it and then breathe very relaxed, but very quick, a little bit quicker than you are. So
yes,
I'll shut up now.
Particularly, breathing on the last eighth note of the bar is what Jeff's doing. You know, just saying like da 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 da, like, and he's like out of air, and so like the air coming in is gonna be really quick, and you don't want to have to work so hard if you just sustain all the way then, and then make it like that breath is very rhythmic, very rhythmical, very rhythmic on that last eighth note of the bar, and then you have plenty of air for the next. So maybe let's do one more try, and then is that time for Hayden? Okay, yeah.
Can I just give one other suggestion? So, well, two things actually. One thing is I think when you, especially on the lower note, like you could think of relaxing like this part of your throat. It's like where your tongue kind of meets your throat. To let that sort of melt away, and this whole excerpt, I think, but especially in the low notes, will help it keep the same resonant tone as the rest of the range. That's a great like middle range sort of technique thing, just like melting this. And then also, I think one exercise that I think can help to sort of figure out how to extend your breath, because sometimes it's actually a mental thing, I think, where we're not used to playing to the very end of our breath. Like we get nervous and uncomfortable when we reach the end. So I would suggest doing long tones and really like pushing yourself to consistently keep your volume and tone and everything the same all the way until you literally have no air left. Like do that in an exercise with long tones, just to get comfortable with the feeling of how physically it changes as from when you're full of air to when you're empty. The sensation is very different, and you have to get used to what it feels like playing all the way through that sensation. So that's what I would recommend, to sort of work on that later. But yeah, let's hear it again.
Fantastic. Well, Hayden, that you're totally on the right track with that. Really great. I can't help myself. I always have so many thoughts going through my head. So I'll just toss one more thing out. And I mean, this is for you, but also just to share with everyone. You know, when you're playing that D, the second measure, you know, the note that Danielle's talking about, which I'm going to think about what she just told me when I practice later today. But when we play it on the first valve, of course, that's a great sound, but it can tend to be flat. And especially in this key of C major, we really don't want that. And I find when I'm playing that loud, it's very hard to push a note up, and it doesn't give the sound that we want because it changes how the note resonates. So if you wanted that note low, if we were in E flat major, maybe that would be great and it would really resonate right. But, you know, I played it third valve on the B flat horn because that's what works on my horn. But I mean, this is just, maybe you could experiment, you know, later about seeing what different fingerings might change the sound that you're getting. Or there's nothing against the rules that says when you're about to play this piece or this excerpt that you push that first slide in on your F horn a 1/4 inch, and it might take that much, or a 1/2 inch, and you might find that note gets the sound that you want. I mean, the horn is just the tool to communicate this music, so I don't think we should be scared to change the fingerings, to change the slide position before a particular passage, especially one as important as this is. So thanks a lot for letting us letting us hear you today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to Hayden. All right, we're gonna welcome now our Pacific Northwest's own Logan Brick. Hi, Logan. Hailing from Oregon, but now in New York City.
Yes. Hello. Good.
Hello, Logan. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you all, except Danielle. It's delightful to see you as always. It's been too long. And yeah,
Yeah, what would you like to play?
I'd love to play some Mozart 4 exposition.
Excellent, beautiful, Logan. Very very nice to meet you here and to get to hear you. It sounds really excellent. Your timing, the tone, um, articulation's really nice. I guess I would just encourage quite a bit more variety in the character. So the thing that I always go back to with Mozart is that it's one of two things. It's either singing or it's dancing. Okay? And singing means more lyrical, longer, a lighter articulation, or it's slurred, and in general then I'm thinking in two or maybe in one. Okay? And then the more dancing part are more pointed, and I'm thinking in four. So an example of this would be like okay, and now more pointed. Okay, so I'm singing that, and now I change. So it's sort of like 2 bars of one, 2 bars of the next. Okay, why don't you start right there and just show us something more like a fantasy. Okay. Hey Logan, will you do it again there? Okay, because it all sounds so beautiful, but I'm gonna say it's too beautiful. Okay, I want like 2 measures of that beautiful. Keep that, okay? But I really like try alternating every 2 measures, or maybe it's 1 measure. Okay, and you know, we're all horn players here, so you think we're all judging you really harshly, but really we actually all understand all the stuff that's gone into getting it where it is. So we're just trying to push you over the edge here. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. What, and then, you know, I'm just gonna share like one other idea, musical idea, at the end of the exposition, which is like, okay, now then is this next entrance more or less? It's got to be one or the other, and it needs to be really clear that it's one or the other. So I personally play it more because then I come back right after it, so that the chromaticism then has a chance to build tension, like. And I don't really start crescendoing right away. I let the chromaticism there that happens build the tension, and then go yum pum 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 when I'm there. So will you do the end again there? Dun 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 dun. Yes, absolutely. You know, keep that. And of course, it doesn't have to be the same way every time, but you totally sold me on what you just did. And I'll just say one other thing is that in my older age here, I've switched to doing a lip trill at the end there. And I know that we could probably spend an hour amongst us horn players arguing about what that is, but I'll just put it out there that I now play it. How do I finger it? I finger it 1 and 2 on the F horn, you know, which is sort of wide, but for me it works better. And I think in the horn world maybe it's going more towards that, but I mean, you're not doing anything wrong, and no one's gonna fault you for what you just did. But I just throw it out there for people to experiment with. So. Anybody else? Yes, Danielle.
With that, but I think something that Jeff did in his demonstration is something that I think would really benefit you throughout this exposition, which is when there's these little technical moments, on those little moments, the air tends to pull back a little bit for you, and Jeff's kind of just blowing into it. And we always do that as horn players. I don't know why we do it, but whenever there's a little turn or a little flip of music, we tend to pull back the air, and we really need to push into those moments. And that, I think, will also make it sound really exciting. I don't know if you want to try that. Maybe try that same spot. And just try blowing through that little bit more. Try the 2 little figures. Yeah, it's just like tone. I always think tone instead of notes when they're little bits like that. Tones.
I mean, do you all ever practice with flutter tonguing? Because I use that sometimes as a shortcut to make sure that I'm keeping the air supported. Because basically, you can't keep a flutter tongue going if your air isn't going. So, you know, so I might practice like. Okay, and slur, of course, slur everything and flutter tongue it, and then immediately I'll play it, you know, normal. But I try to keep that same feeling, and it's sort of, you know, down here in like our core that's always engaged. I mean, I think Danielle taught me that years ago, that she talked about how her core would get tired after playing for a lot, and I started paying attention to that. And it's true that when we're sustaining that, those muscles down there are always engaged. But anyway, the that flutter tongue can be sort of a shortcut way to try that out. Maybe you could flutter tongue for us the first 4 bars, okay, and then immediately do it normal, and try not to change anything except your tongue. Logan, that is outstanding, and I have to give you a major thank you for proving me right, because that sounded so great and just like free, like is the easiest thing in the world for you, and then we all feel that and enjoy it that much more. So really, that was, it's 4 bars and it's mid-range, but wow, absolutely gorgeous. Anybody else?
Yeah, Jeff, I like to do the last trill as a finger trill just because I can control the rhythm a little bit better. And it's, just when you're auditioning, it's good to prove that da-da-dee-da, 4th beat, you stop trilling, da-da-da, and then you do the Nachschlag. And that's like a very good way to prove that, I got rhythm, I got music, who could ask for anything more?
Yes, that's why I do a lip trill, because it's much easier for me to keep the sense of time. When I start wiggling my fingers, I can't keep track of the time. I'm not afraid to admit. So it's so much easier for me to do the lip trill. But Logan, do you want to play a little bit of the development?
Sure thing.
Or play through the development, and really, we already know you can hit the notes and that you sound great. So try some of that creativity. We're putting you on the spot, but try something different.
Yeah.
Yes, again, that's gorgeous, and I thank you for going for that variety of characters. That was really neat. And so the only thing that I would say now right away to you is that now that you're trying some of that, don't forget then that you can still make actually really long phrases, so that you can still like, where's a dee dee so that maybe you make a 4 or 4-bar phrase there. And then, you know, when you got those measures that are the same back to back with the trills in them, again, something has to happen different between the two of them. Really, really obvious, just to keep us engaged. But that was really great. Thanks again for playing, and we do have a little bit of time here. If anybody has any questions for the section, you can type them in the chat. You can type them in the Q&A. But
if you have any
again,
questions, Logan,
Fantastic.
you can also ask.
Yes.
Also, we haven't gotten quite a full. We haven't gotten a full introduction from Logan or Armando, and just it's in the chat. Armando is 24, finished college last year in Mexico City, and his teacher is Elizabeth Segura.
And I'm 23. I'm in New York City studying with Julie Landsman at Juilliard. I'm graduating in like a month.
Nice.
Excellent.
Wow, no questions. I'm amazed.
Everybody has it figured out. I'll just say, I mean, something that we all touched on and about playing these excerpts and or whatever it is when you sort of feel on the spot is that I always putting my faith in it, in taking a good breath in time, which is something that we touched on. And then keeping that sense of subdivision and pulse going. And sort of if you rely on those things as like your foundation, especially for playing excerpts, so many other things fall into place. I mean, you can spend the time in the practice room recording yourself, like I said, and finding all these intricacies and nuances of sound and color and dynamics. But then when it really comes to performing it, I put my energy into those two things, which are sort of like my foundation, and just sort of trust that the other stuff has been practiced enough that it's going to happen. So I think all three of the people that we played had that sense of time going. Just really fantastic.
Does anyone else want to share a hot tip? One quick hot tip, your go-to?
Just being able to hear what is happening in the orchestra around you when you're doing excerpts. Like pretending you're hearing it all, like the 16 bars before you play. And like you're just joining what's happening. You're not starting a new piece by yourself. You're jumping on the train that's already going.
Yeah, I think that really helps with the rhythm too. If you're thinking of what the orchestra, the rest of the ensemble is doing as you're playing, because you're just by yourself and nobody else is there. It really helps with the rhythm too.
I like also, I like visualization in preparation for auditions. Like I visualize the whole thing, like showing up at the hall, sitting in the practice room, when the person knocks on the door and walking out on stage, all the parts that usually make me nervous. I visualize all of that when I practice. But also, like Jenna said, to hear the music, but I also sometimes even like go a step further and cheat a little bit, where I almost pretend that I'm already playing and then I'm already just jumping in with myself. So it makes me feel less, just ways to feel less alone when you are completely alone in a big hall.
Every time I have to play Rheingold, I physically feel like I play the whole arpeggio one time through. So then when I started, I actually tricked myself into thinking it's the second time. And you're kind of like, it's already going. It helps when you have to play it in context in the orchestra and you really are the very first person and terrified.
I used to think that pretend that I was my teacher. I mean, this was Jerry Ashby sometimes, and whether he got nervous or not, I don't know. You know, he probably did. We all have our own things going on in our head, but if it's your teacher or somebody you respect and you can sort of embody them, at least what your impression of them is, that used to help me a lot on just sort of like taking on this persona of maybe of confidence if you're not feeling it. Sometimes you have to, I find myself telling students a lot that you have permission to play a certain way. Like we get into a mindset of students and you play like a student, but at a certain point, you don't need my permission, but you have to give yourself permission to play, let's say, with that more creativity or a little bit more sustained or a little softer or louder, or any of those things. You know, so we all have the right and the obligation to the music to do that. Okay, Logan asked one question here, and then we should probably wrap up. But any thoughts on not putting too much pressure on the more simple, straightforward excerpts? Yeah, like something like that Brahms First, which we heard Hayden play. Right? It's quarter notes and half notes and whole notes, and it's it's in mid range. It's easy. I already gave my answer, which is focused on the breath and sense of time, and I always do that. Anybody else?
I would also say when you're preparing for an audition, don't neglect those excerpts, because sometimes you're like, I'm going to work on that, you know, Webern, or not Webern, what's his name? The hard one. Webern.
Shostakovich, or I mean, Schoenberg Chamber Symphony, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, stuff like that. Berg is who I'm thinking of. But anyway, you know, don't just think of the technical, like the Heldenlebens, but, you know, practice those excerpts. And then my other comment is just always practice fundamentals, because at Brahms 1, like that's just fundamentals. That's just long tones. So like practice your fundamentals and the simpler ones will fall into place.
All right, thanks everybody. Really great hearing these three younger players, and we can all learn something from them. I'm going to go do a little bit of practicing later and brush up on some of these things. But we're going to carry on. JT, what is coming up after our short break?
Yes, coming up, we are premiering the recitals over on the Horn Hippie Media YouTube channel right now. I'm going to drop a link in the chat once I get my screen share all set up. We have two very exciting Northwest artist feature recitals. So all of these artists have some connection to the Pacific Northwest, and there are some incredible pieces, so definitely check those out. And then it's going to be followed by our Young Artist Competition Winners recital. And then after that, we'll come back over to the webinar to enjoy David Cooper's Masterclass, and then back over to YouTube for David Cooper's recital. And then we'll just stick on here after that recital for a couple minutes to say goodbye and give all of our thank yous. So that's the plan for the rest of the day. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here, and we'll see you guys on the YouTube channel. And also, one of the most exciting things we discovered last night is getting active on the chat during the premieres. It is so fun to see people, you know, talking about, oh, I love this piece. What a great lick, you know, all these little comments. So feel free to drop applause emojis and all kinds of things in that chat over there. All right, see you guys soon.